It's November 16th, JLD here, and welcome to MSTR Today and the Treasury Titans. And listen, Michael Saylor wants us to know that before anything else, we first must get the Bitcoin. We keep things simple. We keep things simple and we just follow the course. Do we love the fact that we're in the mid 90s? No, it sucks. It's brutal. This market is not fun. It never will be when we're experiencing times like these. But guess what? Volatility is a gift to the faithful. If you are faithful and you hang on tight, which I'm doing right now, and I know many of you are as well, we will be rewarded because this company is so strong, is so good, and so few people get it. And that's going to be the theme of today because I love this post from Hugh who said, "It's been a great week for MSTR, one of the best weeks ever. If you don't think it has been, you don't understand what you own." And that, my friends, sums up what 99.5% of MSTR shareholders and just people that keep their eye on MSTR because they feel sick to their stomach for missing the run up from $12 to $543. They hate themselves for that. And so they want MSTR to fail just to feel better about themselves and to justify their existence. But the reality is, those that know what these two sentences mean, actually, these three sentences mean, you are going to make it because it has been a great week for MSTR. It's been one of the best weeks ever. This would blow the mind of 99.5% of both MSTR investors and people who follow the stock because they just don't get it. They don't know. They're just headline readers. They've done no work. They're so lazy and clueless. But you know, and I know, that Saylor ATM'd his face off of Stretch, that it did unbelievable. And that in the huge drawdown of Bitcoin, of course, some people had to liquidate their Stretch to go cover their degen leverage loans that they had to, cover because they lost millions and millions of dollars. So that, of course, is going to affect Stretch a little bit. I think Stretch, dipped down into $98 for a minute, but I expect a pretty quick rebound back up to 100 this week. We'll see, but that's what I expect. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I mean, Stretch was absolutely on fire. It has been a great week for MSTR, one of the best weeks ever. We're going to see later today on Sunday, Saylor is going to announce that he bought more Bitcoin because he already said it. He bought Bitcoin every day this week. And then Monday, we're going to find out just how much. And I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised because if you don't think it has been, you don't understand what you own. And I know many of you watching this understand what you own. So congratulations. Ragnar says, okay, real talk. Enough is enough. People keep claiming strategy has changed fundamentally. Strategy hasn't changed one bit since August of 2020. It's the same company it was since adopting their Bitcoin strategy. In fact, the company got better over time, not worse. Their goal is to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible in a manner that increases Bitcoin per share. Their Bitcoin per share went up every quarter since August 2020. They went from 189,000 Bitcoin. I was an owner back then. I remember that. I was like, wow, we're going to get to 200,000. That'll be crazy. That was at the end of 2023 to 641,692 today. And by the way, it's actually quite a bit higher than that because Saylor was buying all last week. We'll find out how much tomorrow. From 56,000 sats per share to over 200 sats per share since 2020. Bitcoin is going to $1 million. They will be a monster company, and that is MSTR. They will be a monster company. If you don't agree, sell your shares or take the opposite side of the market. That's what markets are for. I have zero interest in discussing this further or convincing you. And in my comments, I have people saying, strategy is a Ponzi scheme. Strategy is going to 0. It's going to 10. It's going to 15. And I'm like, oh, so you're shorting it then because you're obviously so convinced. And of course, silence, crickets, because they know they would get their faces ripped off. Strategy has consistently delivered Bitcoin yields since 2020. Here we go. Boom, 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 boom. That's been the trajectory. Does it look familiar? Yes, up and to the right. Zinc says, we often overestimate the impact of technology in the short term and underestimate the effect in the long run. Many are unimpressed with Bitcoin price action this year, but it's important to remember the network is stronger than ever before. Hash rate is close to all-time highs and only trending in one direction, upwards. It's also a year where we have seen huge progress in terms of regulatory approval and integration into TradFi across many jurisdictions. Just recently, 2 central banks in Europe added Bitcoin to their balance sheet. All of these things will eventually matter, and early adopters will benefit as Bitcoin continues its ascent to the world reserve currency. My advice is to use Bitcoin as your denominator, and as long as that number is increasing for you, then all is well and good. Boom. Hermes says, well, let me actually first say what Michael Saylor says. If you want to ride the rockets, you've got to be prepared to pull the G's. Michael Saylor obviously posted this on X, but he also said this on Squawk Box. It was like 2 days ago. If you want to ride the rocket, you've got to be prepared to pull the G's. I'm prepared, baby. I am prepared. And Hermes says, if you're afraid you might pass out, then find a different vehicle. So all those people complaining, find a different vehicle. Go invest in the S&P 500. Do something else. Excuse me. Adam says, if you're bullish on strategy and other Bitcoin treasury companies, it's because you're identifying something the broader market literally cannot price yet because it requires one, understanding of Bitcoin, understanding balance sheet psychology, understanding credit rating incentives, understanding capital structure engineering, understanding MNAV versus NAV, understanding prefs, understanding convexity of Bitcoin per share, understanding early stage adoption curves, understanding why Bitcoin on a corporate balance sheet is still treated as a risk asset, understanding how indexes react to gap changes. This is a very unusual combo. All this stuff he's going down. Adam just posts epic posts here, and then I just want to end by saying, you are watching a category that is being priced with the wrong risk model. That only happens generationally, meaning you and me right now are in a generational opportunity. I believed this since it clicked for me about strategy, and many of you have had that click. I've seen it in the comment section. So I'm just wanting to say, hodl. Nothing in this video is financial advice, of course. Absolutely nothing. And Adam wants us to know that it will leave everyone in its wake. And this is Bitcoin, of course. It will leave everyone in the wake. Everybody said it was going to zero here, 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 going to zero. Sound familiar? Now it's going to zero here? Yeah, we'll see. Unlikely. Actually, inevitable that it's not. Chris says, in February, when everyone was euphoric, I calibrated expectations to the downside. The stock is down over 40% since. Today, when everyone is depressed, I am calibrating expectations to the upside. A move higher is a matter of when, not if. Nothing stops this train. And this is true. I mean, Chris saw it. If we look back on it, it's very obvious that, strategy was absolutely on a FOMO euphoric tear because people were piling in for a bunch of reasons. And hey, it spiked way to the upside. The pendulum swung way too far to the right. Now it's swinging way too far to the left. Where does it belong? Somewhere in the middle, probably in the middle towards the high to the right. And we'll see that happen, I believe, over time. But that's the reality. So hopefully, when we get the pendulum swinging back to the right far again, we're going to be having honest conversations with ourselves and saying, hey guys, this too shall pass. It feels like it's going to go up forever, but it's not. There's going to be pullbacks. There's going to be more volatility in the future because that's what happens. But at the end of the day, nothing stops this train. The Bitcoin therapist says, it's actually insane to me that Harvard's largest public position in their endowment portfolio is Bitcoin. That is pretty crazy. Bitcoin therapist says, but the company's about to implode and going to zero. Saylor's going to sell all his coins and investor bloodlines are done for, right? And that's when Mark posted here that strategies pressed are an 18% uptick in volume this week compared to another weekly high. And you can just see the last 4 weeks have been a thing of beauty. Just bing, bang, boom, bada. Let's go. Zink says, Bitcoin will come roaring back as it always does. If it's not going to zero, it's going to 1 million and then 10 million a coin. If you believe this, then it is logical to be bullish on the companies accumulating the most Bitcoin. Strategy will be the global reserve bank of the world. Period. End of story. And Mike says, if you're giving up on Bitcoin and related companies now, don't feel bad. You are never going to make it anyway, so it doesn't matter. A warm and happy Saturday to you. Mike just says it like it is. And we have a great video clip of Michael Saylor with his Schwab interview, so sit back and enjoy your Sunday. Senator Cynthia Lummis recently announced that funding for a U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve can start anytime. This is a massive step forward for a strategic crypto stockpile, and no surprise, was soon followed by a new all-time high for Bitcoin. If you're looking to buy more Bitcoin, BitIRA can help. In fact, BitIRA will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into Bitcoin. This also allows you to buy Bitcoin using pre-tax funds, then continue to invest in it over time as you do any other retirement account. And if you want, you can even add XRP, Ethereum, or other cryptos. BitIRA protects your assets with end-to-end insurance, highly secure storage, multi-encryption, and is registered with the US government. Your IRA is fully IRS compliant. Best of all, you can trade crypto within your retirement account without incurring taxes on any buys or sells. Just go to bitira.com/JLD and request a free info guide. Once you do that and open your IRA, you'll get a free ledger. Think about this. In March, President Trump signed an executive order for the Treasury to manage 200,000 Bitcoin as the foundation for a reserve. That's just the foundation. Go to bitira.com/JLD to open a tax-sheltered IRA in Bitcoin. Fire Nation, when you want more for your business, more privacy, more guidance, more success, it all starts with Northwest Registered Agent. These legends have been helping entrepreneurs launch and grow their businesses for nearly 30 years. They're the largest registered agent and LLC service in the U.S. with over 1,500 corporate guides, real people who know your state's laws and actually care about helping you win. With Northwest, you can build your complete business identity, everything from what your customers see to what they don't, operating agreements, meeting minutes, compliance paperwork, and more. You'll get thousands of free resources, lawyer drafted forms, and step-by-step guides all in one place, and you don't even need to create an account to access them. Best part, privacy is automatic. Northwest never sells your data and handles everything in-house. Don't wait. Protect your privacy, build your brand, and get your complete business identity in just 10 clicks and 10 minutes. Visit www.northwestregisteredagent.com/JLD free and start building something amazing. Get more with Northwest Registered Agent at www.northwestregisteredagent.com/JLD free.
Bill Pulte has directed Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to start to recognize this as good collateral, but how long will it be before you can post your Bitcoin as part of your conforming loan collateral? And it's a government, quasi-government type agency, and the credit rating agencies, they're starting to cover us like we just got covered by S&P. But how long before they acknowledge Bitcoin as collateral or capital that's just as good as holding a share of NVIDIA stock or Apple stock? And I think, reasonably speaking, that's a 2 to 4 year adoption curve. So between 25 and 28, the traditional finance infrastructure to bank and collateralize and issue credit against this will come online. When that happens, if you think about every asset class, if you can't get a loan to buy a car, and if you can't get a loan to buy a house, what happens to car prices and house prices? Right? At the point that the credit market forms over the asset class, the prices move up. So what you see right now are the bank credit markets, the corporate credit markets, right, and the public credit markets are forming on top of Bitcoin. And as they form, that's going to be very positive for the asset itself.
It's about those believers, isn't it, as you say? And you actually have previously said that each quarter you gain more believers. Can you give us a sort of sense of what you've seen in the most recent quarter?
Well, I think that we started with the early shareholders of Strategy. They were Bitcoin and crypto believers who were prohibited from buying Bitcoin due to regulations in the various markets. So you're a Bitcoin believer and you're a retiree and you live in the UK and you have all your money tied up in your UK retirement plan. It's illegal, impossible to buy Bitcoin with that money, but you could buy a stock. So you'd buy MSTR. Same in Australia. Actually, everywhere in the world, there are large pools of capital that are tied up in these tax-advantaged accounts, IRAs, 401ks, et cetera, where you might be able to buy security, but you can't necessarily buy, you can't just say, I want to buy a bunch of my favorite artist paintings that are, at Art Basel. So the early believers were the crypto enthusiasts that had capital tied up. And mainstream investors big investors that actively manage funds at Capital Group or Morgan Stanley, that they believed in the Bitcoin thesis, but they had pools of billions of dollars that were mandated to make equity capital investments. 99% of the professionally managed money is mandated to equity or credit. They can't invest in a commodity. So we offered the first equity to the equity capital investors. And what we followed on next was a set of convertible bonds. We became the biggest convertible bond issuer in the world. And they were the most successful convertible bonds, and there was a lot of money earmarked to convertible bonds. So after we became a substantial part of that market, we outgrew it. And then we went on to preferreds. And in the preferred market, we started creating these publicly traded digital credit instruments. They were targeted at a different user base. I mean, the person that wants to collect a 10% dividend forever, but they don't want the Bitcoin upside. It's like, okay, I hear you when you say you expect 30% a year for the next 20 years, but just guarantee me the first 10 and you can have the next 20, but take the volatility away and then take the risk.
What's the second best? There is no second best.